Small Operations, Episode 6, A Rumble Within.
Small Operations.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the Small Operations Podcast, a show about teenage engineering, their stuff, and the people who make music with it. This is the 6th installment of our journey together, and thank you guys so much for listening to the show. This has been a ton of fun, really enjoying it, so yeah, thank you so much for listening. We're going to have lots of great music on the show today. We're going to hear from Martin Yam Møller, NitroDude. We're going to hear from Plastic Transistor, Duelling Ants. Going to hear some A Bit Warmer. My guest on the show today is Dragonfly Bry, and we're going to talk about producing hip-hop, among other things, with TE instruments and even some other instruments. I'm really excited to talk to Dragonfly Bry. I'm sure you guys have seen his videos. Really cool stuff on YouTube. Dragonfly Bry coming up on the show. Today's show is going to feature background music from the artist on Instagram at PXPXJK_music. And this is made entirely with an OPZ, exclusively OPZ. And this is entitled OPZ Sessions 1, 2, and 3. And I actually think he has a Session 4 available now on SoundCloud. So I'll put the link in the show notes so you can download those and check out his OPZ sessions at PXPXJK_music. Little bit of news and stuff for the beginning of the show here. Right off the bat, some exciting news for a couple of our friends. Heymun at Heymun Music on Instagram and Matt Ridgway, who goes by at Winter Park Music, have been named by Teenage Engineering as mentors, and they're now on their electronic music school site as mentors for TE. So that's pretty exciting. I just wanted to congratulate them. They do a lot of work and really help out the community with a lot of tips, tricks, and some inspiring music. So congrats to Heymun and Matt Ridgway, Winter Park Music. I got an email this week from Philip Friedman, who is a middle school teacher in New Mexico. And Philip is actually doing something that I think is really neat. He's starting up a after-school program to teach kids, middle school kids, I believe it's grades 6 through 8, about electronic music, DJing, electronic music production. Philip Friedman is known as DJ Teach at his school. He's hoping to raise enough money to buy an OPZ for his after-school program so that the kids in the program can get used to a lot of different types of music equipment to produce electronic music. And he specifically would like to get an OPZ, which I don't, it's not too expensive, $600 or something. And he has a website dedicated to this cause. If anyone of our listeners wanted to donate a little bit of money towards that, I'm going to put a link in the show notes. You can look that up. I think it's a really cool cause. Getting middle school kids, that's a really formative age, getting them into something like electronic music and production. I think it's a great idea. Look that up in the show notes, please. Pretty neat news from Teenage Engineering this month. On September 12th, you've probably already heard about it, but in case you haven't, TE released their newest mod for the OPZ. It's the Rumble module, which is really cool. Adds like a low-frequency feedback rumble, almost like old school Nintendo 64 controller rumble pack that lets you feel the bass frequencies. And really exciting for me because of the way I use the OPZ, or the way I'm trying to use the OPZ, is a silent metronome feature, which will let you feel the pulse of the beat, whatever beat you have the metronome set to. It'll let you feel that beat without having to have an audible click or beep in the background. So if you do stuff that's quiet or ambient or things that doesn't necessarily have a rhythm or drums to it, it'll let you feel that beat in the background. Long lead-ins for your songs, things where you don't necessarily want to have, like me, I'm used to having like hi-hats or other kind of rhythmic features that set up the tempo so I can kind of know where things are going and do my button mashing on a tune when I'm setting up a jam. This allows you to just feel the beat, feel the pulse to it. The Rumble module was developed as a collaborative effort with a company called Lofelt, who I believe is based in Germany, and they seem like an awesome company. Reached out to me on Instagram. Shout out to you guys from Lofelt. Congratulations on the collab. And it's super nice to see Teenage Engineering getting together with some like minds and coming up with even more creative stuff that works with their products. This is really, really cool, you guys. Shimmery.mp3 made a review video on YouTube of the Rumble module. And you guys should go search that out on YouTube. Just look for Teenage Engineering OPZ Rumble review. Here's a little bit of his review from the video.
Hi guys, I just thought that I would tell you a little bit about the Rumble module that Teenage Engineering just released for the OPZ. I got the module today. It looks like this. I don't know, I've seen a lot of worries, a lot of comments online, and I have shared them as well. Like, oh my god, it's gonna be like a Rumble pack inside this little machine, and it's already had like the back plates are pretty loose and stuff like that. Some people have that. Mine is pretty loose as well, so I was very concerned. But no worries. It's not shaking the backplate or vibrating. It feels really good actually. I'm gonna be honest, when I first got it, I plugged it in today, I was really concerned with what have I wasted my money on. This is so ridiculous. It feels really weird. Yeah, this is not gonna work for me. But if you use headphones, you get used to it. It's really weird. Because when later on, I played with it for a minute or two, and then I turned it off completely. And it felt like the whole machine just went lifeless. It's really weird. I have a theory that we're used to playing our synths or computers without, they're not vibrating like acoustic instruments are. Like an acoustic bass or electric bass or whatever, you feel what you're playing through the strings and the instrument itself. And I think you just get used to it in the synth world. Like I have a Moog Subsequent 37 CV, and it's really fat and heavy, and I imagine it in my head how fat that bass is gonna sound on a PA system, but I don't feel it. I haven't missed that until I started using this, because when you turn this off, you miss it. This is, it's something, it's not for everyone. It's not an essential. You're not gonna have an excuse to buy this, but it's really cool. It's really fun. If you're a synth nerd or you're a sound nerd or audio or whatever, you like tech, this is like I think this is gonna be used a lot more in other synths. It should be anyway. I think it's really cool, and it's not that expensive. If it fails, it's gonna be a total retro hip thing to sell for 4 times the value later on. So buy it if you want to, if you like stuff like this, if you wanna feel your bass. Okay guys, so that's just like a short thing. Otherwise, build quality, everything feels good. Locks seems good, seems better than what I read about the op lab. I don't have an op lab, so I can't confirm for 100%, but it hasn't failed on me yet. No dropping the connections on it or anything.
Big thank you to Shimmery.mp3 for making that video and for letting me play a little bit of it. Go check out the full version on YouTube. Folks, something that I've been sweating for a couple shows now is starting a Patreon, because I wasn't sure how it would be received. But I have started a Patreon for small operations. It's patreon.com/smalloperations. And I'm hoping that maybe you'd be willing to support the show in that way. I do have some pretty cool things planned for it. I've got stickers and pins and things like that. And I am planning to do some live streaming and some conversations, hangouts on Patreon, and also some exclusive content that I have going. So if you're interested in that and supporting small operations through Patreon, please do so. I'd be most grateful. Again, it's patreon.com/smalloperations. You guys, we got some great music on the show today. For episode 6, we're going to hear from Martin Yam Møller, NitroDude, Plastic Transistor, some Duelling Ants. Lot of good stuff. Starting off, I think we're going to kick it off with a really cool piece from Luca, or you might know him on YouTube as Amenimo 1010. Luca is Luca Pellegrini, and this is his tune from his YouTube video, 20 Years Birthday, Flat Eric by Mr. Oizo. It's an OPZ remake. So you guys should check out the video on YouTube of that one. Really cool animation that Luca did. So again, that was at LukeNT. You can find him that way on Instagram or on YouTube. He's known as Amanimo1010. Look up the full video. You'll really enjoy it. Next up, we got a beautiful ambient piece from Shipwreckdetective, and this is an excerpt from movements 1 through 5 from an album that he has available on Bandcamp called 11 Terrestrial Movements. So let's take a listen to an excerpt from movements 1 through 5, Above Sea Level, Shipwreckdetective. Really gorgeous stuff from Shipwreckdetective. That was a small excerpt from movements 1 through 5, Above Sea Level, from the album 11 Terrestrial Movements. And I'll have a link in the show notes so you can find this album. It's amazing. So you guys, the first product review on Small Operations. I've had the good fortune of being able to review and take a look at some cases for my OPZ and for my OP1. And these are cases made by Analog Cases. I'm sure if you're on Instagram and you're following hashtags for teenage engineering or pocket operators, whatever you have, at some point you've stumbled across, probably for other equipment too, not just teenage engineering stuff, but you've probably stumbled across maybe a post from Analog Cases or somebody talking about Analog Cases. I know Cuckoo has been talking about them them, mentioning them favorably. But I've had a chance to actually use some of these cases on my OPZ and my OP1 now. So I'm got in my hands right now the one for my OPZ, which is really cool. It's a single zipper. Pretty much fits the OPZ perfectly inside this thing. So yeah, single zipper, open the thing up. Right off the bat, what strikes me about these cases is they have kind of like a soft velvety lining on the inside. Almost reminds me of the inside of like my saxophone case. I don't know what you'd call that, like a velour or some sort of velvety stuff, but it's black. Almost, I've seen like guitar cases, like Fender guitar cases that have the same kind of stuff, but it's really plush inside there. The neat thing about it is it fits the OPZ pretty much perfect. Like, I mean it, like pretty much perfect. And there's a little bit of a, I don't know what you call this, like a little mesh net side pocket inside, so you can put like cables and stuff in there. I keep like a little wipe cloth. I don't know why. I don't really need it for the OPZ necessarily, but I'm kind of like obsessive compulsive about keeping my stuff clean and things. A little something about me, a little OCD on the keeping stuff clean. Cool thing, probably one of the best thing about this case, and you might not, if you've seen these things and pictures of them before, you might not necessarily know it unless you've read other reviews about it. It's kind of got like a hard shell, which is pretty nice, and the shell itself is kind of covered with like, I don't know if I'd call it leather or leatherette, but it almost feels like a leather covering. It's pretty high quality. It's got like a little bit of a design on it, somewhat polka dotted, but it's more or less uniformly black with a little bit of a pattern on it. Kind of feels like leather, but it's got like a hard, I think it's probably plastic shell that this thing is made out of. So the cool thing about it is when you put your OPZ in there, you know, it's pretty protected. Like I said, it fits right in there. The on-off switch, which is something I'm sure some of us are sensitive about, that it's kind of fragile and sticking out the side of the thing. I can say, at least in the case that I'm holding in my hands, this thing fits absolutely perfect into that spot. And the little on-off switch is protected, and it's right up against the side, kind of protected by the hard shell case. So pretty high quality, I would say. I love the fact that the inside is like, you know, got this velvety stuff in there. So I feel pretty confident that my OPZ is well protected. You know, for a while there, I was carrying around in one of the TE wraps, which is cool. You know, it's quality as well, but I was always kind of worried about, you know, the thing kind of gets smushed or bent or something like that. I do not think you're going to have to worry about that with an Analog Cases OPZ case, because like I said, it kind of has, I don't know, it's almost like a flight, like a little mini flight case. It's tough. I'm squeezing it right now. If I dropped it, I'm sure absolutely no harm would come to my OPZ unless I was dropping it from some great height or something like that. But so yeah, hard shell case, single zipper, high quality, doesn't seem cheap. Little bit of a funky plasticky smell to it, but that's a pretty small complaint, if any. It's got the Analog Cases logo on it, kind of a nice texture. It's a nice case. So I've got the OP1 case with my OP1 in it. Again, Analog Cases, you know, they make cases for tons of electronic stuff. That's, I think, more or less one of their deals is they're looking to make cases for as many electronic music devices they can. But OPZ and OP1 are the ones pretty much that I care about. So OP1 case is really cool. I've had a few different OP1 cases. So far, I will say that this is absolutely my favorite because it has that hard shell case like I'd mentioned for the OPZ. It's all black. It's the same kind of covering. It's kind of got like that leather, or I wouldn't call it rubbery. It's kind of like it just feels like almost like a mock leather. I don't think it's real leather. I think it's like a plasticky, rubbery thing, but it's nice. It's covering the hard shell, which protects the OP1 pretty nicely. OP1, again, fits in this thing like a glove. In fact, mine actually is like almost slightly tight, but it's perfect because there's just a little bit of force and just kind of pop it in there. But it fits pretty much absolutely perfect inside. And it's got that same kind of velvety, like I said, you might be more familiar with like a Fender guitar case where it's got like that velvety kind of lining inside for, or like a saxophone case. This is like what my horn cases have inside. That's really nice. It's got that same kind of mesh pocket for cables, or once again, you know, I got another wipe cloth in here for my OP1 just because I'm try to keep this thing clean and the screen pretty meticulously clean. These things cost a lot of money. So, but yeah, that's another thing too. With these cases, like I won't mention any other names for other cases, not to knock any other companies or anything like that, but I feel so far like these are probably the most protective cases that I've seen for an OP1. I mean, it feels like it's in there pretty solid, and like when I kind of squeeze down on the thing, I'm not like smashing the knobs or anything like that. It's protecting it well. And again, I feel like if I dropped this thing with my OP1 in it, it would most likely be okay until I started dropping it from like, 6-10 feet in the air or something like that. But if you're just walking and the thing like slips out of your hand and drops off the counter or something, it's pretty well protected. I would recommend these. I've been using them for, I guess, a couple weeks now, and I'm pretty confident that this is like the best case I'm going to find for the OPZ and the OP1 right now. So they don't have like a handle on them or straps or anything. They're just kind of like a clutch case. I put them in my backpack, and at first, like always, I'm a little bit tentative about putting things just kind of loose in a bag or whatever, or just throwing it around. But I don't know. I'm pretty happy with these. I just stick them in my backpack along with other stuff, and they're protected. So pretty nice cases, analog cases. I believe their website's analogcases.com. Look into them if you want to protect your stuff. These things are not cheap. Your OPZ, your OP1. If you want to take care of them, put them in these cases. So, analog cases.
Hey, Field Plan. This is David Centioli. I feel like I'm leaving a message here, but thanks for having a chat with me the other day. I'm loving the podcast so far. I'm not caught up yet, but I just love the idea of, sharing the creativity, sharing the love. I am completely new to music, and Pocket Operators and Teenage Engineering has been just a big part of getting involved and gaining a little bit of confidence and finding out that it's something I really enjoy doing. I've always been an artist, and I've always been around other musicians, but I've always been a visual artist and just kind of played with other people's instruments from time to time when I could, but I guess I was never brave enough to buy anything myself. And I think that's one of the great things about the Pocket Operators is it kind of gives you an opportunity to not put so much pressure on it. It's a toy when it needs to be, and it's an instrument when it needs to be. You go and you buy a grand piano and you've got pressure to be great, because you went and bought the damn thing, and if you're not great, you push it on your kids and your grandkids, and one day it'll make sense why you bought it. But I mean, this little thing, I bought the arcade just because it had silly little noises, and I thought, I used to love those little keychain noisemakers when I was a kid, and I would just kind of beep at it and make awful sounds to annoy my mom, and I love gadgets and fidgeting with stuff, and so I just saw one of these and I thought, oh man, it's music, it's a toy, it's a gadget. I'm gonna annoy the hell out of my girlfriend, and this is gonna be a fun distraction. And all of a sudden I was sharing my little songs. Then I needed to get all the different versions because they all had different functions. And eventually I found the KO, and now I am hooked. I had no idea that sampling would be so much fun, but it totally fits into, I guess, kind of how I've grown as an artist, which in itself is kind of an interesting story, I guess, but I was actually listening to a podcast a few years back called Stuff to Blow Your Mind, and they did an episode about a condition called aphantasia. And it was the first time I'd ever heard of it, and it turns out I have it. And it's interesting because it's not really something debilitating. It's not really anything to be afraid of, but it really flipped my world around. Aphantasia is the condition of not having a mind's eye. My entire life I had thought that people were always speaking in metaphor when they said things like imagine this or so many things. coming to terms with my aphantasia and learning about others that have it, and learning that there are so many different ways that we experience the world around us and that we capture these memories, it really gave me a lot of courage to just be myself. I'd always struggled with believing that I could be an artist because I could never come up with characters just out of my head. But what I found is that I can search for things in front of me. I can manipulate things as though the physical world in front of me is in my mind, if that makes any sense. I just kind of have to wear my mind's eye on my sleeve. And that's why I've always loved to experiment and just to kind of search for new images, new sounds, new things. Because it's harder for me to hold on to it long term. So it's all about the now, the journey.
Thanks so much to David Centioli for sending in that piece. He's done what I was asking you guys to please do, which would be send in your memoirs, send in your thoughts, send a memo that you can record with your phone, and just let me know how you're feeling about TE products in general, the show, anything you'd like to talk about, and I could play it on Small Operations. To find out more about David Centioli, he's on Instagram, dcentioli_art. And he's got really nice art. The guy is a visual artist, and he's recently started doing his Pocket Operator 33 knockout pieces that he's been making, collages. Really cool stuff. Check out David Centioli. Next up, a great piece from the awesome Martin Jan Møller. This is Lo-Fi Hi-Fi, and it's from Instagram. What he did was he took the same loop from an OPZ. He put one direct from the OPZ, that's the Hi-Fi, and the other, the Lo-Fi, is recorded at half speed into a micro cassette and with some effects and things. Let's check it out. Again, lo-fi and hi-fi from Martin Yam Møller. He's got a YouTube, Instagram. I'll link him up in the show notes. If you're into experimental music and cool sounds, you definitely want to check out Martin Yam Møller. Sebastian Knobloch is known on Instagram and on SoundCloud as NitroDude. He makes music with some Korg Volcas, but also with pocket operators aplenty. And this is called Midnight Rush from NitroDude. Fun, dark, electronic techno stuff from NitroDude. Again, that was Midnight Rush. Info in the show notes. Next up is a track called Moneytron from Wouter Visser, who makes music with his OP1. This song, Moneytron, is from his EP entitled OP1 EP, and you can find it on SoundCloud. Let's take a listen to Moneytron, Wouter Visser. just heard a song called Remember Me by Plastic Transistor. That's a father, daughter, and son production trio. They use OP1, guitar, and vocals. It's available on Apple Music. Plastic Transistor with Remember Me. All right, folks. My interview for today is a guy that I've been wanting to talk to for a long time, and I'm really, really excited about it. We're going to talk to Dragonfly Bry from Micromix Studio. If you don't know about Dragonfly Bry, and I would kind of find that hard to believe at this point, this guy makes incredible hip-hop production videos, and a lot of what he does has to do with teenage engineering products. He's done some incredible stuff with the OP1. I'm a big fan of what he does, and that's why I'm happy to talk to him today. What's up, Bry? How you doing today, man?
Oh, man, it's great, man. I just got finished shooting one. Man, thanks for the intro, man. Wow, that's super flattering, man.
Hey, man, you bet, dude. I'm a fan, so thanks for being here.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love your show. I love the community. You're right, a lot of my stuff is teenage engineering stuff. It's really like the OP1 is kind of like the center of everything, man.
Oh, no, man. I've loved watching all the stuff that you've done, you know. You're one of the videos that when I see you come up on my stream and YouTube, man, I'm like, okay, I got to see what Bry's got going today, man. I got to check Dragonfly Bry. So, but how long have you been producing, man?
Well, it's going to sound, I'm going to date myself. So I've been producing since like around 1990, believe it or not.
Okay.
I started out like reel to reels. I wanted to be like an audio engineer, and I was in bands too. So I started out producing way back, man, like on 4-track cassettes, and then I went to like half-inch tape.
Nice. You started out like producing other people. Were you just making your own stuff for fun at first, or how'd you get going with it?
Some of both, because I was really interested in music, and you know, like when you can't get a talent, you have to beat a talent. So by having the equipment, it's like every day I wanted to do something. So if I didn't have a client, I was the talent that day, you know. All
right, dude. So when you got started, were you starting like you mentioned 4-track and half-inch and stuff? When you got started, were you just using like random instruments, or did you start off on like, I don't know, were you like a keyboard player, a guitar player or something, or?
Well, jack of all trades. I played guitar, but then I switched to bass. Bass was like my main instrument, and it still kind of is my main instrument, right?
Yeah.
But I played keyboard a little bit, you know, about being in bands, so you can watch people and see what they do a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
So like I say, I had a few instruments around. I had like a little drum machine, I had a keyboard, and I had a guitar. So I just kind of like cobble things together from that point, you know?
Nice. Yeah, I've seen a few of your videos where you're playing bass, dude. There's one that you did that was a funk out, man, with the bass. It's pretty hardcore. I'm like, okay, this dude has some skills on the bass, man. I know he's either a bass player or a guitar player. He's probably a bassist.
Yeah.
So when you got into music, man, I mean, I think you kind of mentioned you were doing bands and stuff, but I mean, did you have a lot of years when you were coming up where you were playing with other people in bands and playing out?
Nah, not really. It was mostly local stuff. The funny part about the funk out is like, that was really my first like YouTube video in general, right? Like I was playing around, I kind of dropped in and out of music throughout, you know, between that time and now. Yeah, a couple years back, I was like, hey, you know what? I just need to put something on YouTube. And I pulled out the OP1, and it kind of just came from that point, you know, the radio challenge that we all do, you know, like you put it on the radio and figure out what's next, you know. But the reel to reel, and like to bring it back, the reel to reel and that real recording, that kind of like has my mind from the OP1, right? It was no undo button on reel to reel. And like when I first started, it was just 4-track cassette. So 4 tracks on the OP1, it's like, okay, I'm going back to my youth, you know, and it was really like a cool, kind of like nostalgic type thing. That's what kind of like kept my hands on it. So then I kept on making like more and more music because it's so limited. But the limitations were ones that I started out, but you know, I'm not sure if Tobias has like my mind or what, man, but it's perfect creation for me, man, because I can sit down, I like synthesizers, I can, you know, record on the tape, you know, and then play a couple tape tricks. I knew some tricks from using real reels. So try those out on the OP1, and a lot of them worked and translated over, you know.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, is that like the main thing that got you interested in the OP1 was kind of like the tape aspect of it, or was it just like, oh, dude, I need a keyboard to produce, then this thing's got tape? I mean, what drew you to it?
Well, I've always had samplers, I've always had synthesizers and drum machines, right?
Uh-huh.
But I saw the ad for it when it first came out, and it was like in a museum, and I was like, what is this? Yeah, I saw more features of it, and it's kind of mysterious, right? Because you can't really tell what it really is and what it does, and nobody really can tell still until you get one.
Right.
You get your hands on it for a couple of days too even, you know.
Yep.
But it was like an iPhone. It just drew me in, and I was like, what is this thing, you know? So I had it like on my little wish list for a while, and took a motorcycle trip across the country, man, and I needed something small that I could pack up. So I was like, I'm just going to pick this up now.
Nice.
And I threw it in the back of my bag, and I just rode on, man.
So you took that thing around with you? You just went on like a cross-country trip or something? You were playing OP1 at stops?
yeah, no doubt. I bought this little tiny guitar, too, and I bought the OP1 case, and a few accessories, and like this little tiny travel guitar, man. And I had a tent, and I'd go play in my tent and stuff like that.
That's cool, man. No, that's cool. So you ride a bike then, or is that like?
Yeah, I had a Gold Wing when I went across the country. I have like another bike too, around town.
Man, that's like a cruiser right there, dude. That's like a house on wheels, man.
Cadillac and a Lazy Boy mixed.
Exactly. No, that's cool, man. I'm envisioning you going around with this thing and like with a little travel guitar and the OP1 and stuff, and just making stops and like just kind of getting out. Like it's time to do a jam.
yeah. Oh man, it was fun, man. I went to an EDM fest when I was in California, man, and it was pretty cool. Okay. So I got inspired, and then I came back to the tent. Cooked up a couple things,
Well, you know what, dude? I understand what you're saying about being kind of like drawn into the OP1 because of the way the thing looks. I mean, it was kind of similar for me. And I talked to a bunch of people about this. First and foremost, the thing is like, it's kind of just like enticing looking. It's kind of mysterious, like you say. It's like this thing. It's like, what does that thing do? And you start seeing people using it, and you're going, what does it actually do? What are they doing with this thing? And so I was kind of intrigued at first, but I wrote it off at first as kind of like being one of these things that it's like, this must be some sort of like hipster device or something like this. And when I started watching, dude, like the Tobias videos where he's going through all the different things, like here's what you do with this, here's what you do with this, tape mode, sampler. And I'm like, oh my God, I need one of those, man. I need to get an OP1. I don't know. It consumed my mind, dude.
It's the integration that kills more than anything. So you read about the separate features, right? But when you get it, and you have it for a couple days or a couple weeks or years even, you'll find like new little tricks, or like one piece relates to another one this way, and then it's like a mind blower. You'll make a whole new song over this one little relationship that you find.
Exactly. No, exactly. So what do you think about the OP1? I mean, if you wanted to get into like hip hop production, do you think OP1 is a good choice for you to start off with, or is that something you got to build up to, or what do you think?
Well, there's a lot of people using it right now. I mean, there's a lot of people doing lo-fi stuff, and there's a lot of people doing regular hip hop on it too. I mean, I follow lots of cats that do a lot of hip hop stuff on it. It's perfect for really almost any kind of like genre that has like electronic music roots, or any kind of sampling roots, or it's a good drum machine, good sampler. I mean, it's pretty basic in a lot of those same regards, right? So if you're looking for like a quality sampler that does stereo and you can do like a super long time, it's not for you. But if you want something that's portable, kind of like use those limitations to your advantage, kind of like take it like a game, kind of like a video game, that's for you,
No.
The price, of course,
No, for sure. I mean, that's one of the things is there's other stuff out there that's, like maybe less expensive, whatever, especially now. But the thing is, for me, I feel like the versatility of the thing, I feel like all the stuff that it offers, and it's battery powered, man. And the battery, like you say, it lasts forever. That is a really big benefit and a value to the OP1s. That's why I recommend it to everybody. And the first thing is I tell them, like, oh yeah, it does this and this and this, and you got them hooked, and then you drop the price on them. They're like, what now?
Yeah, right.
So, but I mean, I don't know, man. I even still though, the amount of stuff that you get out of it and the amount of work that you can get with it, I mean, I think it's kind of worth it, dude. So I don't know. $300, you can go to Walmart or wherever store and buy like a laptop, right? Right.
A couple $100 more, you go get FL Studio, and that does 10 times more than the OP1 will ever do. I promise you, right?
Right. Yeah.
And the battery, you can get a decent battery life. You can plug in and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like for me, even though I use computers and I have a DAW, I have email on computers too, and I have so many ways to get distracted from actually like bringing out a real product.
It's true.
The OP1 is so small, you can kind of like go to any little corner or like sit on the steps or go outside or any place and just plug in.
Yeah.
And once you plug in and put the headphones on, you're kind of like in the zone, man. And it puts you in like a whole other world, and your creativity, it's a creativity boost is the main benefit, is what I would say.
Oh, I know, absolutely. I feel it's the same way, and that's why it's kind of cool these days. I'd say at least over the past few years, where there's kind of been a little bit of a movement towards like the DAW-less thing. And at first, I was kind of like, "What's wrong, man? What's wrong with like using a DAW?" Like, all of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh, you're using Ableton Live?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's wrong with that?" I thought it was cutting edge. You know what I'm saying? But actually now more and more, when I get into like the TE products, I find you're absolutely right. I mean, it takes away the distraction. It lets you create. So it's one of the things I love about it.
Do you track your stuff into Ableton Live?
I usually do. Like anything that I create on the OP1, like a lot of times I'll try to like pay attention to the way I'm setting up the tracks. And then what I do is I'll export those tracks as like stem tracks. And then I'll like chop them up in Ableton, or a lot of times I don't even chop them up, dude. I might just break up sections and then kind of arrange it in there to make like a longer piece or whatever, you know? So I try to start out and be thinking from the start. When I do a jam that starts to go somewhere, I go, okay, I'm gonna start arranging these things so I can clip up the tracks and take the little parts and then rearrange them in Ableton. But little by little, I'm trying to get a little braver and just do everything on the OP1, you know?
Yeah, you have to commit to it for sure, right?
It's 4-track, dude. It's like old school 4-track, man. It takes me back to yeah, no, for sure. So what's up with YouTube, man? Because we were just talking about like when you first got back into it and you were on YouTube. What made you start thinking about doing YouTube videos?
Well, to be honest, I followed a lot of YouTube creators, right? There's one guy I follow named Kev Green. Had a video and he's like, hey, if you're serious about being a producer, you need to do a one-on-one web call with me or something.
Okay.
And I paid the fee and I did a call with him, and it was kind of like a beat critique, right? So I had a bunch of beats I cooked up, and I was was already prepared and everything. I had like a nice little lineup. I played it for him, and he's like, man, if you need more attention, you need to kind of like get your face known, and if you can't get out in town, and go to every single little event, you should start a channel. So I thought about it, and it's just like, hey, why not? Now I already had I already had that OP1 Funk Out video, and I had a few things on YouTube already, but I had never committed to it. And to tell you the truth, man, it's really been like one of the best things going for me, because not only have I been kind of like sharing what I know, and I like sharing stuff, I've been learning so much more from the community. So that's a big part. Like, I love the community out there, man. YouTube, like the OP1 forums, all of the communities of like, especially the Dallas communities, man, because most folks will share their tips. Now I'll share anything now. Like, if anybody writes a question on there, I'll just tell them, like, or I'll make a video about it. That same stuff comes back 10 times, man.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's one of the things I appreciate about your videos is you have so many good tips. I like the way you do the Micromix Studio stuff, because it's like, hey, it's Dragonfly Bry. Today we're going to do this. You know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of an inviting format, the way you set it up, and then you just go right through it. I mean, there's a lot of people out there making YouTube videos and everything, but sometimes it's the personality, and it kind of clicks right if you get the right person that's doing the videos. That's why I like Cuckoo. That's why I like Jeremy Blake. When certain people do videos, it's like it sits right with you. You're one of those guys for me, man. I mean, I said this before, but you're like a guy that I know that's showing me more stuff,
Oh yeah, man. Well, I appreciate it, man. Man, I started out watching Jeremy right before he changed to Red Means Recording, right? Because he has of course, he still has some of the best videos out, like
totally.
It's just insanely, like A+++.
Absolutely.
So I saw his first stuff, and I might have commented, and we might have chatted in his comments a few times. Then he goes to Red Means Recording. I was like, oh wow, this is really good, And then I watched Andrew, what's the name of the channel?
Andrew Wong.
Yeah. And I watched a few other OP1 and micro device channels too, right? Dallas too. Dallas jamming. So I wanted to do a channel, and I didn't want to waste folks' time, so I won't kind of like just yak the whole time. I do want to just kind of like get straight to what I'm doing. And then I didn't want to copy anybody else. Like Red Means Recording, it's so easy to see that stuff and say, wow, that's good. I could take a little piece here, And I'm
gonna tell you, it's the same for you though, dude, too. I mean, I could tell, like, the way you have it set up, there's a lot of thought that goes into your videos, and it's appreciated. So you're already on your way, but you're gonna blow up because of the format. That's what I'm saying. Like, your personality and the way you do your videos is real appealing, I think, to a lot of people. And the more people that get into your stuff and see it, I mean, the larger your fan base is going to be. There's no doubt about that. So,
All right, cool, man. Yeah. I hope so. I'm not going to stop, man. It's really a good thing for me, and it's good. It's good to see and interact with the community. Like I say, I love the comments. I love when folks, ask questions. Then I kind of get video ideas. A lot of the ideas come from the comments, actually. They're like, hey, I want to see you do this piece, So this week, I'm doing one on the OPZ update. And of course, I do like a little beat on it, too.
All that stuff is important, man, because that helps out the community. Anytime there's an update or any kind of firmware thing or anything like that for OP1, OPZ, and you drop something on it, you're helping people out, because there's a lot of stuff that I'm included in this. When a firmware update comes out, might not necessarily be the first adopter. You might miss the release notes. You're missing out on some good stuff. So when you do a video, or somebody does a video, it helps us all out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could dig it. What do you think about the OPZ, man?
I'll be honest with you, man. OP1 is my baby. Like OPZ's coming up, dude. When sampling, look, and I said it to this other guy on Instagram the other day. I was talking with Free the Beat on Instagram, and I go, hey, sampling on the OPZ made me do a podcast. Okay. I mean, I'm excited about everything that Teenage Engineering does, but when legit sampling came out on OPZ, I'm like, I'm done. I gotta finally, you know.
Let me put this on your side, dude. Everything that you're doing is great. And I remember when you first started the first couple ones.
Yeah.
But you can see the potential even on the first one.
Thanks,
man. I see where you're going. And after like the number 3 and 4, I was like, oh, okay, this has a great future, man. Dude, don't stop doing what you're doing either.
Thanks, man. I'm just looking at you guys. I'm just looking at you guys and going, okay, there's got to be a way somehow, with as much as I love this stuff, that I can contribute. And I want to make it about other people's stuff, because there's so many people out there that are making amazing stuff with these TE products. Man, I tell everybody this, like, I'm a geek when it comes to this stuff. Like, I love these things like they're like my Star Wars toys or something, dude. There's a special place. You know, I'm like the fanboy kid. I'm like the guy that gets this stuff, and it's just like, I'm not even lying, dude. You ask my wife, I'll like fall asleep like a little kid. I'll be like clutching the OP1 on the couch. You know what I mean? It's just, it's like.
But the OP1 is kind of meant for that too. It's kind of like so artsy, right? It's in the MoMA, right?
Yeah.
So if you make an OP1 video, it's no problem to put a Star Wars toy like leaning right against the side of it, or a little dinosaur. Or
I know it.
Then when I started out, I did Domo. I love Domo, so I put little Domo characters in the video, you know, or a plant, or your puppy, or anything fits in that scene, you know. So it's kind of toy-like, you know. But when people see the price, of course, they don't like the toy part anymore.
I know, man. That's one of the things. It's like it's a hurdle for a lot of people. I wish that there was some way, you know, and I know little by little, like the way people perceive these things and the value behind them, I think it's going to change. I'm hopeful that it'll change, especially with the OPZ. Pocket operators were like a gateway drug. I mean, that's kind of how it worked for me, dude. I got a PO16. I got a factory pocket operator, and I went to Guitar Center, dude, and I got a pocket operator. They had it on clearance, and I'm like, oh, I seen those things. So I picked it up and I started messing with it. I'm like, this thing is great, dude. This thing's genius. And then I started, you know, noticing more and more. Oh, it's that company that makes that OP1 thing. Damn. Gone. Forget about it, dude. Forget about it. So I think the OPZ, because the price is a lot more affordable, you know, and people start to see what that thing can do and how immediate it is. Yeah. I feel like it's a gateway drug right there, man.
I think so too. I mean, the funny part is like I'm reverse addicted too. So like now I have the OPZ and the OP1, but I'm looking at the POs, the whole PO series. Every time a new one comes out, even the Rick and Morty one, or oh man, I need one of those. I think the OPZ is kind of like 6. I say the OPZ is like 4 to 6 POs, you know, strapped together maybe.
That's really, at first I'm looking at the OPZ. I'm like, why do I need that? I got the OP1. Is there anything that thing's gonna do? I mean, that the OP1 doesn't do. It's like a giant pocket operator. But it's actually more than that. I feel like the sounds on it, that it comes factory, you know, presets and stuff, are not necessarily as good as like some of the synthesizer engines on the OP1, but it's all customizable. I mean, that was like one of the first things I did was wipe the thing and start putting my own stuff on there. You know what I mean? It's just like an MPC or whatever. And at that point, I mean, it's off to the races, you know what I mean? So
yeah. If you have an OP1, you go up where you already have like a stock, you know, your favorite sounds and your stock sounds that you use. So I'll tell you, like the OPZ, the thing that kind of like drew me to it is a sequencer, right?
Yeah.
I like the OP1, but I thought that one of the OP1, like if it had a weakness, would be like sequencers, right? You could always just record the tape and do like a no quantized thing, which is great. Right. And you had, you know, the little sequencers that go to, I guess it's like a 16th, resolution of 16, like 1/16 maybe. But it didn't have like a traditional kind of like key roll. Mm-hmm. Or like, you know, like a linear one, kind of like the OPZ has. My first sequencer was the Alesis MMT8. It's like a little 8-track MIDI in, you know, I think it's 1 MIDI in, 1 MIDI out, maybe a through or something like that on it. That's how I learned how to do it. You know, that was my first hardware sequencer before DAWs came out. You know, 4 computers, I didn't have any screens. It was like a little LED screens, you know. So when I saw the OPZ, I was like, this might work. You know, this might be kind of like that. Now it truly is, man, because you have those 8 tracks. You know, the other light tracks and the effects, they're cool too, but I kind of call those effects, you know. But the main 8 tracks, you know, they work, and then, you know, the sequence is great.
Absolutely. Now, there's plenty you could do on those 8 audio tracks. I mean, you know, the tracks that provide audio support or whatever. The other stuff, I mean, we're going to find ways to integrate that, you know, in the stuff that we do. I'm already like messing around a little bit with the Photomatic, you know, just in the hopes that I get a projector or something, you know. You know, but I mean, just even messing with that, I messed with it a little bit, you know, it's pretty cool, man. All in one little box. I mean, for the price, I think that thing's going to blow up, dude.
I think so too. I mean, it's a wide range of like uses, you know, like, or a lot of different, like the appeal is to a lot of different groups. So like if you're in the video or even like live video, just like you say,
Right.
Somebody might want to replace a DMX with it, you know.
What are you using anything else? Like when you use like an OPZ or an OP1, what are some of your favorite things to use with them? Like you sync anything up with it, or you do anything like kind of together in jams?
So I use an Axolotl, I guess MIDI synthesizer effect processor. It's kind of like a core unit. You just program it how you want. But I just use it as a MIDI translator, right, between the OP1 and the OPZ.
Yep.
And that kept me from getting the OpLab, you know, because it works on the OP1 too.
Yep.
And with that, I use everything, man. I'll plug a guitar or bass into the OP1 and use, record that straight to tracks. If I use the MPC Live, I usually don't use too much TE stuff, but sometimes I do sample some stuff that I do into the MPC and chop it up, you know.
And then you do like a lot of stuff with iPad too, right? I mean,
yeah. I'm doing that this week too. Yeah. So the iOS and Teenage Engineering stuff is really a great fit. The OPZ app, of course, is iOS. The OPZ has the Bluetooth capability to be like a keyboard.
Yeah.
So when I carry the OPZ around, first of all, if it's in your pocket, I can pull out like Animoog or something on my phone, Bluetooth it up, and just have my AirPods in, and rock out, man.
Dude, that's one of the things I want to get into a little bit more, because I mean, I got an iPad, but basically I'm just using the thing as like a screen if I need it for the OPZ or whatever. I haven't really done too much production on the iPad or whatever. I actually use my phone a lot to kind of grab sounds and put them into the OP1. That's one of my favorite things to sample, is just like little phone apps. And I haven't started doing that too much yet on the OPZ. I think I did it one time. Yeah.
It works great with Chord Gadget too. So if you get an app, Chord Gadget's a great app to use it with.
Oh, okay, right on. I think I got, what was the last chord thing? Man, it's been years ago since I got any kind of like apps. I've been using like the same apps for a long time, but man, too many. I got too many on my phone right now to even mention. But yeah, that was one of my main sound sources. Was just grabbing things off of, I'd make like I'd do like a little sound and sample it, or I'd make a little loop and sample it and then chop it up, on OP1. Another cool thing, I was just watching a couple videos last night of yours, talking about like the radio roulette, where you kind of like basing things off of rhythm roulette. That's one of the things for you. I like watching you do that. That's one of the things I'm wondering how many people these days are still using, the radio side of the OP1.
Yeah, I don't see it too often. Not lately. I mean, when it first came out, I've seen cats doing it. And I think Jeremy might have did it too.
When I found out about that you could actually do that on the OP1, I was like, what is this? What does it do now?
It's even cooler. I've seen a few cats like overseas doing it, and you can hear the radio stations. That's even cooler, man.
Yeah.
Then they chop up like a whole different. Their crate is different, quote unquote.
You can actually open up, the radio on there. You can listen. You can browse around, find something, sample right from it, sample from tape. It's super flexible, man. And it's hard to explain that to people sometimes. Yeah. So I think I'm probably gonna just start pointing them to your videos more.
Man, I'd love that. Thank you, man.
No, man, I'm just gonna go check out Micromix. If you see what Dragonfly Bry is doing, I mean, it's pretty much a better explanation than me rambling trying to tell you what's up, dude. So.
Yeah, I'll tell you, for the OP1, the thing that's really cool about it, it's really good for getting ideas when you don't know what you're gonna do, and that's for there's so many things that kind of like intrigue you, and it turns into a puzzle until you figure out where you're going.
Right.
So you start out with a synthesizer and start changing knobs until you get a whole different sound, or put some effects on it.
Right.
Or go to the radio or what have you. Yeah, I mean, every single week it's the same thing. I kind of like figure out, I'm like, what am I going to do? And I don't really have a clue yet,
Right.
That song kind of like comes to life out of nowhere, starts with some little small thing. Teenage Engineering stuff is really the best for that, man. The MPC is great too. Like, it feels like more full-fledged, kind of like DAW studio, less idea machine,
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's got a little bit different workflow. I think the OP1 and even maybe even more so now with the OPZ, it kind of lets you just screw around, and you might happen upon something that kind of gets you a little bit, and then you just take off with it. Whereas I think a lot of times with like an MPC or even with a DAW, like there has to be a little bit more of a battle plan because you're loading in stuff that you're going to be manipulating. Whereas the OPZ and the OP1 shoot even pocket operators, and you just start messing with it, and maybe it'll take you somewhere,
Yeah, exactly. And so most of them are big enough to have like a library that's pretty decently sized, So you put some sounds in that you never use, and then one day you'll go through, you'll be on a subway train or someplace, and you'll pull a sound out. Like, hey, what's this?
That's it.
And you'll have a whole song, and it only takes like 15 or 20 minutes. You'll have like a whole nother idea,
No, I mean, that's one of the things that I want more people to understand when I talk to people that aren't really aware of these things as much. And I try to I'm always trying to convert people, like the evangelist, like, hey, man, you know about this thing? Don't write it off. This thing is actually going to it's going to be something that's going to help you be productive. So don't write it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Well, as a hip hop producer, if you got somebody that's new to the game, they want to get into this, give me a tip, man. Where do I start out?
Yeah, well, it's harder to say one tip than I'd usually have a conversation, man, because one tip leads to like more questions, you know.
Yeah.
But the first question I'd ask is if you're trying to use hardware or software, and then like, are you trying to be mobile or not? Because if you saw what I was doing already, you'd have a couple ideas. But if we just met, I'd probably point you to a laptop, unfortunately, man, because most people, when they get in that area, they're more comfortable going from, learning from the videos and stuff like that.
Sure.
Teenage engineering stuff, if you were coming from scratch, I'd say get a PL. And then maybe an OPZ. So if you had either OPZ or PO, I think you could learn really good on either one. Actually, the OP1 too. But the OP1 has limitations that I think if you've done a little bit of production, you can work around the limitations a little bit better. But if you're just getting started, you might need an undo button maybe. Or if you're doing stuff like just learning how to make drum beats, definitely get a PO.
If you're stepping into the TE products world, you start off, you just start pressing buttons and you try to make sound out of the thing. And it works. Usually you get there pretty quickly. Yeah. OP1, you just start messing around, putting stuff down on tape, and then just analyze it, see how it worked, and you just learn. But I mean, luckily we got people like you that can help people along the way. So like for production, if someone's new to anything, even if they're rocking a DAW, because I agree with you, a lot of times a DAW might be a good first place for people trying to get into the game. Like Fruity Loops, it's kind of hard to beat Fruity Loops for that. I mean, if someone comes in, they're like, Dragonfly Bry, I want to get into this. What can you tell me about starting off with this? I'm having a hard time. I know how to get sounds in there. I know how to get like things happening, but what can you tell me about making good beats? How can I make thick beats?
Okay, yeah, well, it goes back to the same. That's kind of like a similar vein of the same question. So what I tell everybody is, if you're trying to like learn any device or learn how to produce a record, you need to figure out who are your mentors, who are your kind of like secret idols, like who writes music that you like, and kind of reverse engineer what they're doing. So, and that's how it started too. I mean, I think everybody starts kind of like similar, kind of like in that same vein a little bit. Find some producers that are doing some records you like, and then try to make the drum beat. The drum pattern is usually an easy way to get started because you'll make a kick and snare pattern, and it's not really hard to do it. Even if you don't use the exact same sounds, you just take the sound as close as possible from your choice, and then move on to the hi-hats. And if you can get the whole drum pattern, that might be like one lesson in itself.
Yep.
Then the next time you'll figure out the bass line. You figure out what has one note that you can figure out the things that have one note at a time. And then if you can pick chords out, start learning the chords, So that might take somebody 1 week or 1 month or 1 year, between when I started, copying the beats to when I was playing the chords. That was years actually for me, because I was a bass player.
Right.
So I started out, I knew the drum part, that was pretty easy. I could figure out the bass line within, a couple, minutes. The chords I could play, on guitar, I could pick out a few chords, but my vocabulary wasn't really high on, I was just getting started. So it took a while to kind of like learn more about the chord part.
Right.
So when you learn how to produce, you kind of like learning music too. Music part, it depends on how much you want to study. So the physical part and what instruments you're using, that's kind of like secondary, to tell you the truth, man, because like finding out who your idols and then how to copy their music is really the main key to getting started, I'd say, to anybody.
Yeah.
And based on who you're looking at, that might pick your tools too. So if you want J Dilla, you want to go get an MPC. And you can do J Dilla on the OP1 for sure. I mean, there's plenty of people that are doing the same, kind of like a similar type piece.
I mean, I hear people doing J Dilla on the PO33, on the knockout, the pocket operator.
Big time. In a good way, yeah. It might have some influence on your selections, is what I'm saying, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
All that stuff on teenage engineering stuff, though, for sure.
No, that's cool. Because there's a lot of people, I'm sure, you know, that and I've heard this from a lot of people already since I've been doing the show, and people hit me up, you know, just in private messages or whatever on Instagram. Hey, man, you know, I'm picking up the OP1 again, you know, or I'm picking up the PO33. I bought the thing, messed with it a little bit, kind of got discouraged and put it away, but now I'm kind of like getting back into it, you know, and I'm liking listening to the interviews that, you know, you have, and it's helping me figure this out and kind of do this and this. I'm like, right on, cool. That's exactly one of the things that I was trying to do. One of the things I hear most from people, like, and even this is from friends and everything, is like, you know, you're doing electronic music, you load a kick drum sample, you load a snare drum sample, and it sounds thin. It doesn't sound fat. You know, how do I make these things sound a little bit thicker, a little bit fatter? And the first thing I always let them know is a lot of that stuff and a lot of those sounds that you hear, they're a lot of times, most times they're resampled, you know, because you have compression on them. You have they're sampled and then they're resampled. They're cut up and they're put back into a sequencer. Yeah. You know, that's a hard thing, I think, for a lot of people to get the concept, especially when you first start. I started out with Fruity Loops, right? You drop in a kick, you drop in a snare, and you're like, why does that sound so thin?
It's well, once you're getting started, getting the notes is one part, but then sound selection, that's like a whole other art. It's almost like the sound design.
It is. And that's the thing is, people, I don't want people to get discouraged by the learning process for these things, because it's not like, you know, you buy the thing and you're automatically going to be a award-winning producer. It's part of the art. This is an art. This is something that you don't just buy the thing and then you're automatically good at it. You have to practice at it like any other thing. So don't get discouraged. Be enthused and be inspired. You know, people like you, man, people like you that do a YouTube channel, that do what you do, you're helping people stay on with this. I mean, you're bringing joy to other people. You're bringing joy to people that are looking for something. They're looking for a way to have a voice, and you're helping them with that. So it's a good thing, you know.
Thank you. Well, I tell you, don't be discouraged, right, man. And even I put it down sometimes, man. I've had plenty of times where I'm working on a track on an OP1, OPZ, or, you know, MPC or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's not going where I wanted to go, or I'm not feeling the same, you know, I'm not attracted to it anymore, and I have to turn the power off. Mm-hmm. Rubik's Cube, man, you pick it up and put it down. You know, go as far as you feel like going that day, and then you just put it down. The thing that's cool about the OP1 in the same regard, though, is you don't have to save anything. Like, it's all, you don't have an undo button, but you also don't have to have a save button either.
Right.
You just put the power back on, and you're right where you were yesterday at the last minute that you know used it.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. Yeah. That's one of the things that makes it so immediate. You know what I mean? It's all a learning process, and these things are inspiring to people. It's one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to get out there and like I said, be a little bit of an evangelist for them, and why I'm drawn to people like you. So what's next for Micromix, man? What else you got going for Micromix Studios?
More YouTube. Just keep on doing what I'm doing, man. I'm not going to stop.
Don't stop.
I'll probably get, you know, I'm trying to get some artists in here, and maybe one day I'll get, you know, some singers and rappers on the mic. But
okay,
I'll always be cooking up on the products, man, on the teenage engineering stuff and the MPC, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, what you're doing is fantastic, man. I love your channel. You guys, Micromix Studios is Dragonfly Bry's YouTube channel, and I'll put that in the show notes so everybody can find it if there's some crazy chance that you don't know about it already. But if you don't, you need to go look this man up, check out his videos, be inspired by what he does, because it is inspiring. Dragonfly Bry, I appreciate you being on Small Operations, man. Thank you so much, dude.
Thank you, man.
Bry, thanks again so much for the interview, man. Here's another piece by Dragonfly Bry, Micromix Studios. This is a piece by Fraser called Harris Pilton. Again, that track was called Harris Pilton by Fraser at FraserHog1 on Instagram. Duelling Ants are one of my favorite finds that I've come across when putting together small operations. This is a track called Space Travelers from the album Two Birds, One Seed on Mars Melons label. And it's made with an OP1. Again, this is Duelling Ants with Space Travelers.
Hey, what's happening on my small operationees, my POs? I don't know what the community has dubbed itself as of yet, but how's it going? So I'm a relatively new teenage engineering inductee. I bought a OPZ maybe about 4 or so weeks ago, and man, it has really revolutionized the way that I am going about making music, the way I'm thinking about music. More than anything, it has expedited the process of me making music. I've gone from being a relatively slow, grinded out type of producer to just being able to bang something out on this OPZ and then just go to having a blast just playing around with it, playing with the performance aspects. Honestly, I think that's the biggest thing that this has done for me is it's just been fun. I went from just slaving over beats for months or weeks or whatever and just trying to get it perfect to just really haphazardly and in a very fluid and fun way just putting something together and then just jamming on it and really just getting obsessed with in the moment making music, and man, it's been a blast. It's also been pretty easy to integrate it into larger production things, so I highly recommend the Z to anybody that is considering a workflow change-up or just a fun gadget to diddle around with. Hey man, shout outs to everybody in the teenage engineering community, all the small operations community, and everyone that puts together this podcast. And shout outs to everybody whose music that I've checked out from this. It's been a blast seeing what you guys all make with these crazy little devices. Hey, if you want to find me, I'm on Instagram at Tensile_conqueso. And have a good one, my guys.
Here's another one from Tensile. Tensile_conqueso on Instagram. This is called Rat Racist. Kai Chow Lau is a producer that uses an OP1 from Austin, Texas. This is his piece 2015-1002 CRPY1, which I'm guessing is October 2nd, 2015. Creepy one. Could be wrong. Let's check out Kai Chow Lau. Kai Chow Lau made a whole bunch of music with his OP1 when he was on business trips, and you can find them all on SoundCloud. I'll put that link in the show notes. Next up, we're going to hear from A Bit Warmer. This is a tune called Time and Space, also available on SoundCloud. It was made with an OPZ. Let's listen to A Bit Warmer, Time and Space.
Slowness, but it's been so long.
Once again, that was a tune called Time and Space by A Bit Warmer. Link will be in the show notes. We got time for one last tune for episode 6 of Small Operations. This is from Graskala, and the track is called Broomy. This is from the album Saturation. It's available on Apple Music, Spotify, and everything else, and this is a 100% OPZ album. So let's listen to Broomy from Graskala. Time, that was Broomy by Graskala, and you can find that on Spotify, Apple Music, and everywhere else. 100% OPZ album, guys. It's been so much fun hanging with you guys today. Thank you so much for listening to Small Operations Episode 6. Once again, I want to thank my guest, Dragonfly Bry, for being on the show, and thank you for your time for the interview, man. Analog Cases, thank you so much. Background music throughout the show, in the beginning, during the news segment, and behind the Analog Cases review, once again was provided by @PXPXJK_music, and that was his OPZ sessions 1, 2, and 3, and you can find that info in the show notes. Thanks so much, man. Final shout-outs to everyone on the OP forums, to the OPZ Discord, last but definitely not least, to my friends at OP1 and Chill. You guys, thank you so much for supporting Small Operations and for blowing up the show so much, for all the love on Instagram. I'm truly, deeply appreciative of it. Patreon, Small Operations is now on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show that way, I'd be most grateful. Patreon.com/smalloperations. Check it out, become a patron, a supporter of the show. I would love it if you did. If you need to get in contact with me for any reason, send me music, send me a voicemail recording or anything that you might like to hear on the show, send it to smalloperationspodcast@gmail.com, and I'll write you back, and we'll go from there. Hope everyone stays safe, enjoy the show, and I'll talk to you next time. Until then, take care, Small Ops.
Small Operations.